If you're still drawing artwork specifically for your Instagram grid, stop doing that. Instagram has proven to be ever-changing and, dare I say, unreliable, and will usually not reward you in the way that you think it will. I swear every time I open that app, something is different. Things are moved, things are changing, the algorithm's different. So sometimes it feels like you just can't win. So stop wasting your time drawing little square illustrations only to open the app the next day to find out that the square is dead and your entire grid now looks like crap. But don't worry, I'm going to show you how you can take the stuff that you've been drawing for Instagram and turn it into like 20 different products and projects that will actually serve you well. I even have art prompts to help inspire you and get creative ideas flowing.
If you're participating in my art challenge, then these dice would be perfect for that challenge. You can get these free on my website, and you just write your prompts onto the faces of each die, and then you roll your dice, and then you see what you get. Here are this month's prompts. And I'm going to write the adjectives, objects, and settings each on their own die. If you want to follow these prompts, you can just find this list over on my Instagram at MyMcDoodles and follow me over there. And I have this posted each and every month for you guys to follow or have inspiration with art prompts. I'm just going to go ahead and write the adjectives on one die, the objects on one, and the settings on the third one, and then we'll make our dice and roll them and see what we get. So there are 5 prompts for each column, so I went ahead and wrote those on the dice, and then if you want, you could make up your own adjective for the last box here, the last face. I just wrote adjectives and put an X, so if I roll the X, I'll just roll it again. Same for this. Each of the prompt columns only had 5, so I'm just going to roll again if I get the X, or you could just make up your own thing to place in there. Just going to cut them out, and then you can use a little bit of glue or double stick tape and go ahead and glue on these flaps so that it can form into your cube. And if you get the freebie from my website, I also have like instructions if you need them and kind of like ideas for what to put on the dice. But if you're following my art prompts on Instagram, then you already have some ideas. Okay, we got playful, teacup, and secret garden. So let's see what we can do with that. So let's think about the different things we can do with this piece of artwork besides just using it for an art print or posting it on social media. This is my little notebook of top secret ideas. So let's jot down some of our ideas here. First thing is we're going to use it for an art print. Okay, another easy one is that we're going to post it to our social media, but this should not be the primary goal. Always make sure whatever you're posting on social media is also going to be multi-purpose and serve you in other ways, and that you're not just drawing things only for like Instagram or wherever you post your artwork. Something else we could do with it is we could make stickers. So I could take each of the individual elements and make those into vinyl stickers that I could sell, or you could sell the file for people to print their own stickers. You can also very easily make digital stickers once you have the file set up for your stickers. So that would kind of make sense to add to the list. From the digital stickers, you can make GIFs really easily in Procreate. I have other videos on this on my channel. If you would like to check that out, I can link it right here. The digital stickers could also be used on the app Jiffy as well as the GIFs. And you can also sell these, like if you wanted to sell it as clip art. And I have a Canva creator account where I can post my little elements like this, like digital stickers that people can use in their designs. As of right now, I believe the creator program is no longer accepting applications, but just for my own reference, I'm going to write Canva on here so that I know to upload it to my Canva account as well. From the whole image that we're going to draw for the art print, we could also make something like a coloring page. So these could be either like printable downloads, they could be digital for people to color in an app like Procreate, or you could make it into a book when you have enough illustrations to compile into like a nice size coloring book. Okay, what else? You could use this as a page for a monthly calendar, and this could either be a print calendar or you could offer it as a digital. A lot of people will do like wallpapers, and that's kind of nice because you can offer it to your followers or patrons, or if you wanted to use it as an incentive for people to sign up to your newsletter or something like that. I've also seen where people will make like a tracing worksheet. This would be more like a digital thing. So from your final, like I would probably do it from my coloring page outlines. You can like fade it out and make the opacity lower and create a worksheet that people could like trace over and then color in on their own, but have like your artwork as a guide. Of course, this will be like for personal use only. I would not recommend giving this to people without saying that it's for personal use, because then they could just like trace over your artwork and sell it as their own print, and nobody likes that. Nobody wants that. Okay, so what else can we do with it? So we could do a puzzle. For a puzzle, I would have to add more detail. So I would probably create like the simple art print and stuff first, and then go back in for the puzzle, make sure it's sized appropriately for whatever size puzzle I want to make. If you have an idea of how many pieces you want, like a 500 piece puzzle, go and look up the dimensions for wherever you plan to apply or get this printed, and make sure that your final artwork is created in the right dimensions. And you're going to have to probably add in more details and stuff, so it's actually a fun puzzle. Otherwise, it might not work out well, but that's just an idea to add to the list. We could also do like a greeting card, and then I always like to save my original elements so I can use them in something like a seamless pattern. From the pattern, you could sell digital scrapbook paper. I have a tutorial on this as well if you wanted to check it out. I'll link it up here if you wanted to check out how to sell digital papers on Etsy or on your website. It doesn't have to be Etsy. And then we can also use this seamless pattern, like you can just sell the seamless pattern file, and then people can use the seamless pattern to create their own products and things. I kind of like to sell it as digital papers, and then people can use it for their scrapbooks and stuff. Okay, and then you could of course also get this printed on your own products. So if you sell on sites like Zazzle, Redbubble, and like Society6, you can also do print on demand companies like Printful, Printify, that kind of thing, and get your own products made with this seamless pattern. And of course, you could also get fabric printed. And there are a variety of different companies that'll do that for you beyond just Spoonflower. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good list here. So let's get started and start working on how we would make this into the art print, keeping in mind that we are going to also make stickers from the individual elements and a coloring page and these other things here. Oh wait, I want to go grab something. I'll be right back. Since this is what we're going to be drawing today, I thought it might be helpful to have some in front of us. So this one I really love because it has like a scalloped border on the lip of the cup. You can see how it's like kind of scalloped here, and the design on it is just really pretty. I love all like the gold accents on it, even inside of the teacup, and the way that the handle is shaped. I think that is so cute how it's kind of like curved and it has like this ornate kind of detailing to it. So I really love this one, and the saucer too, with the details of the little flowers on it and the gold accents. So I would like to do something like this with the flowers on it. This is one of my favorite ones because it was a Christmas present from my sister. So she found it when she was antiquing, and I just think it's so cute. I don't actually use it. I keep it in the glass cabinet for display where I keep like special stuff. So I'm too afraid to use it because what if I break it when I'm washing it or something? But we can use it for our drawing today. Now let's look at this one. This one is so cute. I don't know if this is really a teacup per se because it's very small. So I don't know if you would sip tea out of this as well, or if it would be used for, I don't know, like espresso or something, or if it is a teacup because it's really tiny. But I really love this one because it has Monticello on it. This is where I got engaged to my husband, and this happens to be his grandmother's little teacup and saucer. So I was lucky enough to be able to keep this and have it here as like a memento to remember her, and I keep this in my case as well. I don't use it, but I thought it was so cute because of the size. It's really tiny, and I like how there's like a picture on it. If you can see, I'm not sure how well you can see it on the camera, but It's like a pretty detailed picture of Thomas Jefferson's house. So I really love it. And keep this one for inspiration, especially the saucer. It's so cute with the leaves all the way around and the vines and everything. I think it's so pretty. And this last one that I grabbed, it's actually just from our china that we got for our wedding. And I really like the design on this one. The top here is kind of like a pearl, and then this is shiny, and it has these little details here that look like little pearls. I'm not sure how well you can see it on the camera, but I just really love this one because the really intricate pattern, like it's simple, but at the same time it's really detailed. So there's like little scalloping here and lines across the top, and then this like swooshy design with the little pearls that are raised. So I thought that's kind of pretty. Like it's a nice, simple, easy to draw design, but it just adds like a cute little touch to the cup to make it really special. And the same on the saucer. I really love the border on it. I don't know that I'm going to really show saucers in this drawing, but you could just keep in mind designs you like for if you make like coordinating things, because we're going to be drawing teacups. So if you don't necessarily want to draw it like this way, like a flat lay, and you wanted to have it like more to three-dimensional with the saucer and everything, then you can just keep in mind some designs that looked pretty and that you thought looked cute and would be fun to draw. So the prompts we got when we rolled the dice were playful, teacups, and secret garden. And when you're following art prompts, if you get something like this and you draw this solely for Instagram or wherever you post your artwork, stop doing that. These are supposed to be used for inspiration to help you if you need ideas and things like that. And while it's certainly 100% okay to post it on Instagram and to tag me so I can share your artwork in my stories, I don't want you to do it only for Instagram. You need to think about how you can use something that you create for a prompt like this, or any prompts that you're following, and use it for multiple things. So you don't want to spend your time drawing an image that's just going to be for Instagram. That's sort of a waste of your time, especially since the algorithm is always changing and you can't really control how your post is being shown, or if it's even being shown to your followers. There's just too many factors that are involved in social media kind of things, like the algorithms and whatever. So don't create artwork just for Instagram. Like, create it for other things, and then you can also post it on there so that you can showcase your work. But when I'm drawing things, I'm always thinking ahead. So I know that I would like to create other products with this. These are the colors I will be using today for this illustration, and I also have this color palette posted in my Doodle Squad. So if you would like to download it, you can go join my Doodle Squad. It's on my website. I'll put the link in the description. And this palette is called Playful Teacups. So let's draw some teacups based on the ones we saw for inspiration. Here are some teacups that I came up with. Since these are already drawn out, if you wanted to follow along, I'm going to trace over this and clean it up a little bit so you'll be able to follow along there. But here were some that I thought could be cute. I liked the idea of having like a scalloped border at the top, and while this isn't exactly like this, I just kind of like the idea of that, so I incorporated it into mine. But then I added some flowers and stuff because I don't want it to be so plain. I do kind of want to go with the secret garden kind of theme and have like flowers and just like fun little things to decorate the cups. This one is just like swirly and maybe like some leaves or something down here just to kind of make it fun. And then on the tea bag, like the tag, I thought it could be cute to have just like little decorations kind of showing like what kind of tea it is, or just something to make it look more interesting than just like a plain square. This one, I thought it could be just like a simpler version of this cute teacup. I might change out the handle a little though to make it match more like that one, and maybe scallop the top. And then ladybugs, of course. I actually have a mug with ladybugs on it, like a ladybug on the handle and on here, and it chipped and the handle broke and the handle got glued back on, and it's still in the cabinet, but I'm too afraid to use it because it's pretty much falling apart. It would be good for like a plant or something. And then this last one, I just want to do something fun and different. So I got this mug recently where the handle is like this giant bow and it's completely impractical. It's not really like something that's very easy to wash. It takes up too much space in the cabinet, but it's super cute. And so I just wanted to do something like that. So I'm going to trace over these and just use the black monoline brush for that to make nice clean outlines. And the reason I need to trace them again is because I want to make this eventually into a coloring sheet. So that's pretty easy to do at the same time that you're cleaning up your sketch. So that is something that can like kind of save you time later on. If I just go straight to coloring, then I'll have to come back and make the coloring page. And I don't really want to use like this textured brush for a coloring page. I'd like it to be like a nice clean outline. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll add in some like other fun little details that could be interesting for a coloring page, and also our just piece of artwork that we're going to share as an art print and also use for posting on social media. So I'll switch over to the monoline brush. That's in the calligraphy section of the Procreate library, the brush library, and it comes free with Procreate. So I'll just go one at a time in a new layer and trace over these, and you could follow along if you would like to draw the same mugs, but you might want to customize them to something that you think is fun and maybe something more personalized to you. So you don't have exactly the same illustration. If you copy it exactly, then you should not sell it or use it for commercial purposes, but it's fine for personal use if you just want to follow along with the tutorial. But this is a really good opportunity to customize the design on the actual teacup to make it something unique to you. Because it's going to be a coloring sheet, I want to use the same weight all over the page for my brush so that it's uniform. So I'm going to check it here, and it looks a little bit thick. So I'll just put it down to, let's see, 2%. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's pretty good. And so that is kind of like a nice thickness for coloring for adults. For children, you might want to make it a little bit thicker, but I think that looks pretty nice for an adult coloring page. So let's just go through and trace over these teacups, and then I'll meet you back here. When you're working and making something like a coloring page, you want to work in layers. That makes it a little bit easier because then you don't have to worry if things overlap. Like for example, I want to make this like scallopy top, but sometimes it's hard to end like exactly at this edge, and you can save yourself some time and make things a little bit easier for yourself if you work in layers. So I just drew my scallop layer above the other one. Then I can just come back in here and erase up to the border of the cup, and it just makes things a little bit easier. So I'll be working in layers like that and then flattening things down as I go. Like I should have done the handle in a new layer as well, because you see if you need to go back in and erase out like the part where it's joining there, it is a little bit trickier to get it so that it's like not taking out part of the drawing that you don't want to be erased. But I mean, it can be done. It's just easier if you work in layers. And then as I go, I'll just pinch these together to flatten them down so that I have everything just like kind of organized and neat as I go. Okay, so the first one is done. Now I also wanted to point out that I'm going to be drawing each teacup in its own individual. I won't keep drawing all of them in one layer because I want to use these also for other things like stickers. And it just makes it easier if each element is all by itself. So I'm going to label this teacup number 1, and then I keep all of my originals, and that way it's always there if I need to duplicate it, or let's say I'm going to go back and make this into a surface pattern. Then I have my original and I can duplicate it and resize it to make it smaller or like tilted or shifted around and make my pattern that way. So I always try to think ahead. I draw each of my elements in their own layer. If it's a coloring page, you're going to work in multiple layers, and that way you can just erase out little bits and pieces that are sticking out or anything that looks like messy, and then flatten things as you go. But in the end, you're ultimately going to have one element per layer. Like see, this teacup is just its own layer. And then when I have all 5 of them drawn, I'll have teacup 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then I save those in a folder, and that folder will be my originals, and I don't touch that. I just duplicate from that folder. So this next one, I'm going to make it in its own new layer. I'm not going to put in the same layer as this first one. Okay, so we'll just go through and trace over this one and clean it up here a little bit so we can use it for our coloring sheet and also for stickers or GIFs or whatever. Okay, so I have teacup 1, teacup 2, and since they're in their own individual layers, I can move this one around or whatever I need to do, and it just makes it a lot easier. So I'll go through and trace the other ones and then we'll meet back here. Okay, for this one, I wanted to point out that the spots on the ladybug, like while I know they're supposed to be black and it's really easy to just color them in, that it sometimes is a fun idea to leave them open so that the person who's doing your coloring page can choose the color. Like maybe they don't want to make the spots black. Maybe they want to make like a pink ladybug with, I don't know, like purple spots or something like that. So whenever you have an opportunity to leave like little white spaces for them to color things in, then that's always a fun idea. Like I know I colored the spots over here, but they're so tiny that I'd have to change the weight of the brush. And I just don't like the way it looks when the weight of the lines change throughout the design. It just really bothers me. So, but when I'm able to have little open spaces for the person to color, I do try to leave them open. So I just thought that was worth noting. Okay, so all 5 of my teacups are done. The battery pack on my camera just died. So I'm going to go charge it, but I just wanted to finish my thought here before I come back and finish this up for you guys later. Now that they're all drawn, they're in all their own individual layers, so I can move things around if I need to or whatever for my coloring sheet. And I also want to group these up. So what I'll do is I'll swipe to the right on each layer. So I have teacups 1 through 5, and then push group here in this right hand corner of the layers panel. Now I have a nice folder with all my teacups in there. So I'll just name it, and actually I want to name it originals. And so then I know not to touch this folder. If I need to duplicate them or swivel them or anything, I don't swivel the originals because they'll get blurry. So I'll duplicate this one so I can show you, but I will swipe to the left, push duplicate, and I'll pull it out of that folder. And then I turn the folder back off so I don't accidentally grab the wrong one or anything like that. Make sure that I'm working from the duplicate. And then if you need to move things around, you can rotate them, but this will pixelate your design a little bit. So as soon as you rotate it, you can see that this has become slightly blurry, and I don't want to do that to my original. So I'll always work with my duplicates and keep the originals to go back to. This is kind of a fun coloring sheet, but it's also kind of plain. Like there's a lot of boring white space in there. So I'll go in and add just like little doodles and stars and sparkles and stuff and put these in anywhere where there's like boring dead space. You could even add like steam, stuff like that, just to make it fun. So this is pretty simple, but I think it could be a really fun coloring sheet to offer like followers, maybe for a digital download, like a freebie or something. And if you have a bunch of these, then you can compile them into a coloring book. For a coloring book, I think I would like to have like more detail in here. So I probably would add like a border and maybe like a quote or just some other little things, because there is a lot of white space in the margins here. But this is a great start for our art print. So I'm going to leave it as it is, and then we can go ahead and color it as soon as my camera battery is charged. What I need to do first is to get all of my originals duplicated and flatten them into one layer for coloring. So I already put them into this folder a few minutes ago, and I'll just go ahead and duplicate the folder. It has all of my teacups in their own individual layers, and I just grouped it into that folder and called it Teacups Originals. So I'll duplicate the entire folder, and sometimes I even like to go back to the original folder, swipe left and push lock so that I can't do anything with it by accident. But if I need to go back and access it, all you do is swipe left and push unlock. So I'm going to turn that layer off. And now I'm working with my duplicated folder. I'll tap on the icon here that shows all of the layers and just push flatten. And now I have this nice layer that has all of my teacups in there for coloring. I'm going to rename this. Let's just say like teacups coloring, and then those extra little like stars and stuff that I made are in this layer, and I'll just go ahead and merge these down so that everything is all together in one layer, and I can go ahead and color. I'll just pinch them together, and now everything is here in its own layer, and this can be used as my coloring page if I export it as like a PDF file, or even as an image file. Either one would work. So when I'm coloring an image, I put my sketch, or like for this particular illustration, it's like finished line work, on top, and then I'll hit this blend mode over here and change it from normal to multiply, and then just take the opacity way down, and then I can color in my design pretty much, by tracing over it again with my colors. I don't use a lot of outlines in my work, so this works for me. If you do use outlines, then this could be really simple for you. I'm going to show you a trick that'll save you so much time. So keep your layer turned all the way up, and you'll make a new layer directly underneath. So this will be my color layer. Okay. Now on this one that says teacups coloring, I'll tap on the icon and I'll push reference. Now, anywhere I color underneath, it's going to reference the line work in the teacups coloring layer. So let's say I want to make this one pink. I'll just go down here, drop it in, and even though this coloring layer does not have any line work, it knows to stay within the bounds of your layer directly above. And you can make multiple layers. Anything that's going to go underneath the reference layer will work for this drag and drop. To make things even faster, you can drag and drop, and then you see up here where it says continue filling. If you tap on that, now I have a blue check mark, and it means anywhere I tap, I can just go ahead and it'll fill that area with the color without me having to drag and drop from this little icon up here every single time. I can just color drop all over the page. You could just go so fast if you needed to color large spaces or whatever. This makes things so much easier. So layers that are above the reference layer also will stay within the bounds. Like this is your reference layer for your entire canvas now. So let's say I made a new layer on top of that reference. I can still drop the color in, and it knows to stay within my reference line work. And you can see it does kind of go out, like it looks like it's cutting into the black there. And if you just move it underneath of your line work, it just looks a lot nicer. But I think you could also adjust that with your threshold. So let's say that it was going out of the bounds a little more than you wanted. You could probably just like drag your pencil back a little bit more to the left and make it neater, but then you run the risk of having like those white lines. You see how it doesn't completely fill, so it's a little tricky to get it just exactly right, and I feel like it's kind of looks pixelated and stuff. So it's better if you make these colored layers underneath your reference, and then your line work will stay nice and clean and look like really polished and finished. Okay, well, I don't use line work in my drawings, so I'm not going to use this technique, but I just wanted to point it out for anybody who does, that this could be a really fast way to color your designs. I deleted those color layers back out from mine because I don't want to use those, and I'm going to turn reference back off by just tapping on the icon there, hitting it again, and you see how there's no check mark next to it. That's how you know it's turned back off. So I'll make a new layer directly underneath of my line work, and I'm going to change the blend mode on my line work to multiply, put the opacity down pretty low. I would normally have it down way further than this, but I want you to be able to see it on the video, so it's a little bit more than I like. I just find when it's really, really low, it's easier to know where you need to add your details and like shading and other little details and things you want to add. It just shows up better. It gives you a better idea of what your final artwork is going to look like without this distracting line work. But anyway, made a new layer directly underneath. That's where I'm going to color. And you can use whatever brushes you wish for this. Sometimes I like to use the monoline brush just so I have a nice clean edge, and then color it in with something maybe more textured. You can also use the select tool. So if you wanted to go up here and hit this S, the select icon in the top menu there, and then go on freehand down here. You could just go through and just trace over your line work with your select tool. And this works either by just drawing with it, or you can tap and it'll follow where you are making your taps. And then if you need to make a straight line, you just go like clear over here and tap and it'll make the line for you. You don't have to draw the straight line across. So it's pretty useful for that. And then once I have my selection made, I can go in with a textured brush and color it in and have that nice crisp edge without having to worry about like making it look nice and neat, because it's hard with a textured brush. Like your edge is going to be textured, but if you want your edges to be nice and crisp, then you can do it this way. And if you need to have areas that are not included, like this negative space where the handle is, you can just trace over it. And then down here, push remove. So right now it says add. Just tap on the remove and it took that back out. I'm not sure if you can see it on the video, but there's like diagonal lines showing what is not selected. And so I can see that it removed that little bit out where the handle is. So I know it's ready to go to color in and it won't fill in that space. So you can either trace over it and push color fill, and then it just immediately drops color into the whole thing, and it's a nice fast way to color something in. But I don't want to do that. I want to have some texture in there, so I'll turn that back off. And then I'm going to grab the color that I want and a textured brush. So I'm going to be using this soft chalk brush. I really like this one. It's in one of my brush bundles in this pack here called Rough and Tough. There's lots of like textured brushes in there, and it's one of my favorites, so I have it bookmarked here in my menu. If you don't know how to do that, you can leave me a comment and I'll let you know in the comments how to do it. But it's a pretty efficient way to find your brushes if you tend to use the same brushes all the time. So I'm going to use that brush, and then I don't want my teacup to be orange. I think I want it to be like, let's try this like light pink. Well, actually my background is light pink, so I should turn that on so I can see what my colors are going to look like on top of that. So maybe this like really pale pink there. So I'll just turn that up pretty large and then just scribble over my selection, and that will fill in the space. And I think maybe I even need to add like a little bit of white. There we go. So that looks like really nice and chalky, and you can see how it has the texture, but the edge is going to be really crisp and nice. So let's just check out what it looks like. You can see it's hard to tell with the line work on, so that's why I usually have it down pretty low, but you can also just turn it off and on so you can see how your drawing is looking. And so it looks like this, and I like how it has that crisp edge, but it's like chalky. So I think I'm going to go with that for the rest of my teacups here. And I'll be using these colors that I picked out up here. I like to swatch them on the page so that I can quickly siphon it up just by holding my finger on there and getting the color. And that's just faster for me than having to go up here into this menu and choosing things up here. You can also pop this menu out if that helps you, move it around your page, but sometimes that gets in my way. So I tend to just swatch my colors on to a new layer of my canvas and go from there. So I think maybe I'm going to try a little bit of this in the teacup. I want to alpha lock it so it stays within the lines. So just take 2 fingers and swipe to the right, and let's just see how it looks if I add a little bit of that in too. Okay, I think that could be really cute. And then I want to draw this flower right here on the edge, but it's hard to stay in the lines. So you can just be messy and scribble it in and then clip it down with a clipping mask. So I'll tap on there and just push clipping mask, and now it's going to stay within the bounds of the layer directly underneath it, and that makes it really easy to just quickly color stuff in without having to worry about staying in the lines. Okay, and so these are leaves underneath of the flower, but I like to make things more interesting and not always go with the traditional colors. So instead of making those green, I wanted to try making them maybe like purple or bright blue or something like that, because I want really playful, colorful teacups. And I'll do it in a new layer. I like to work in lots of layers so that it's easy to move things around or go back and correct things, like if I want to change the color or if I need to clip it down to stay within certain boundaries. It's just way easier if you work in layers. So let's see how that looks. Okay, I think that could be pretty cute. So I'll just keep going through following these same techniques and coloring in my teacups, and you don't have to color them the same way I am. And hopefully you even made your own designs within your teacups so they can be truly unique. And I will meet you back here. This is how my first teacup came out. So I like the playful colors. I just want to make sure that the contrast is enough. And here's how I check that. I'll make a new layer on top of my teacups and I'm going to fill it with black. Then I'll change the blend mode and we go all the way down here to color. And then you can kind of look and see how the tones are. Like this is pretty close. It might not be enough contrast. It looks like these grays are blending into one another. And that's a really fast way to check your work and make sure that there's enough contrast. It'll look better if these are, there's more variation. Like see how this is so dark and this is light. It just looks better when it has some variety like that. So I'll go back here and let's go to this orange layer and see what we can do. I'll duplicate it because I don't want to mess up the original. So I'm going to work with this duplicate here. I actually want to turn my black layer back on and then go up here to the adjustments menu and kind of just play with the saturation and the brightness there and just see if there's a little more contrast I can get. And then I'll go back and look at the color and see like if I actually like the color. Okay, so that's fine. It's still orange, but it just has a better contrast to it. So this is what it looked like before. And here's what it looks like when I adjusted it. And it's just such a simple like minor tweak that you can make that just helps things look a little nicer. Like if you noticed in other people's work why it looks so nice, it might be little things like this, just minor details like the contrast is good or versus like colors that are in the same like values so that they kind of like blend into one another and there's not a lot of nice contrast. Those could be little things you can fix to improve your artwork. Just like little adjustments sometimes make a big difference. Another thing is this purple and the like coral kind of color kind of blended into one another. So let's see what we can do with the purple. I'm going to duplicate it and then just go up here to the adjustments menu again and just see what I can do. So you can see that it just completely vanished when I changed the brightness there. So let's just make it either like way brighter or a little darker. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, I still like that. And I guess I did that in a different layer. So I have to go up and it's flattened down. This is why it's really important to work in layers. I drew the purple detailing right on top of that blue. So it's a little trickier to adjust if you have to go back and do things like this, but it's not impossible. So I'll just siphon up the color here. And then I'm just going to drop it into that like scalloped edge I drew and adjust the threshold till it covers most of it. So it's pretty good. You could just slide your pen left or right and it will fill in the color more or less. And then I'll just go through with these little dots and push continue filling just to save a little time here and just tap on each one of those dots. Okay, there we go. Down here as well. I guess I did the same thing. Okay, and it will pick up similar color tones. Like if you saw how it was darkening this as well, I don't want it to do that. I just wanted to capture that little bit there. So I had to deselect the color fill thing and then just drop it directly into that one little spot that I wanted to fix. Okay, let's check the other areas. I think the pink needs to be adjusted. Oopsies. And probably the rest is good. Like these ones here, this line in the leaf in the black and white version is completely blending in. But when I turn on the layer, it's enough contrast, like it's obviously two different colors and looks nice like and bright. So I'm going to leave that alone even though on the black and white it doesn't look that good. But the pink here needs to be fixed and I think I drew that directly onto the teacup as well. No, I didn't. So I need to find where I drew that. I have my menu set up so that I can hold on this square on the left panel here and then tap the other finger onto the area like the layer. I don't know which one it is. And then it will let me select it that way. So it's not sure, like it's one of these three layers. It doesn't know which one I'm tapping on. So one of them is the backdrop. Obviously it's not that. The other one is the teacup. And then there's this one here, layer 22, where I added pink detailing. If all of your layers are labeled, like you should label as you go, then it's really easy to see which layer you want to select. Well, I happen to know I drew that pink line in the same layer as these pink hearts. So I'll tap on that and I can adjust the brightness here just a little bit. Okay, how's that look? So that's pretty good. One last tip before I start coloring. is to keep things organized over here. You can see I kind of got lazy about naming my layers. Either name all of your layers or keep them in folders or something to keep organized. I am probably going to flatten all these down in the end. So I'm not going to name the layers for each individual element here, like flowers, leaves, details, hearts, teacup, that kind of thing. But what I will do is select these and put them into their own folder. So I'll group them up. And now I have everything here for this first teacup, and then I'll name my folders. So even if you don't name all of your layers, you should definitely name your folders, and it'll keep things nice and organized as you go. So if you have to go over here in your layers panel, it's not like this complete mess with like 50 layers or whatever that you have to dig through. So I'm going to show you guys, but keep my secret. I cheated a little, and I actually did color some of these for my Instagram. So I have my teacup here in its own file, and the file is large enough that I could take this teacup and drag it into my other final print and use it, because I made it like the sizing for Instagram, but I put my sketch in here and enlarged it. So this teacup is drawn pretty large for this art print here. So what I could do is go back into the one I drew for my Instagram, but I kept in mind that I wanted to have this as a social media post, but I also wanted to have it for the tutorial that I'm teaching you right now, and art print, and all of those other things that we talked about. So it's not drawn just for Instagram. I rarely do that because it's a waste of time. So anyway, I want to drag in this whole group, the teacup here. So what I'll do is grab onto that folder, and this is already flattened down, so I can't really change the colors and stuff like that easily. So instead of dropping it here onto my canvas, I'll go up here into my layers panel and just drop it in up there. And now I have this teacup that's already colored. And when you drop into the layers panel here, it keeps your layers in the right order. If you were to drop it directly onto your canvas, if you let go when it had that green plus sign, your layers will go in reverse order, and it's kind of a mess. It's really frustrating to rearrange them. If you have clipping masks, they will release. And if you have blend modes, they will not keep their blend modes. Like, you'll have to readjust all of those over here. But if it's a pretty simple, like a flat drawing, or just a couple of layers, then that's a really easy way to drag it from one canvas to another. So I'll go ahead and resize it to fit my center teacup here, just by tapping on the arrow and then sizing it down here. And I'll show you, it's going to be a tiny bit pixelated because I'm resizing it, which is a bummer, but it's not too bad. So if you look here, this is the one I drew directly in here, and then this is the one I dropped in. Like, it's not bad, especially since it's not going to be printed this large. This isn't at size, so it should be okay to be printed on a regular size art print and still look nice. So that saved me a little time because I had already colored that one. And the colors coordinate because I used the same palette and kept in mind that I wanted to create everything with this specific color palette. So a little bit of planning can go a long way in saving you time. I also cheated and already did the ladybug mug and also the one with the bow. So I'll go ahead and drag those in. You can pull it in just like I showed you, or you can tap on the icon there and push copy, and then go back into your artwork here and just paste it in. But this only works if it's one layer at a time. Since I had flattened this ladybug down into one layer, it works for this. Okay, just kind of nudge it into place. You can tap on the screen and it'll move one pixel at a time. I think that looks pretty good. And let's check it. Yeah, it's looking good. And I did use a different brush for these ones. It's still textured and inky, but it's not the same brush that I used for this, but because it's also textured, I think it works out okay. And I always tend to use the same type of brushes. Okay, and the last one that I pre-drew or pre-colored is the one with the bows. So I'm going to go back and grab that one, and let's see if it's flattened down into one layer that I can just copy and paste it. Okay, it is, which means I can't change the colors and stuff, but it's okay. Okay, one more trick. You can also go up here to the actions menu, the wrench tool, push copy canvas, and that'll copy everything that you're looking at right now, like whatever layers you see. If I have a background turned on, it will copy that as well. But since I only had the teacup turned on, it'll just copy what I was looking at. And then I'll go over here into my art print, and let's let's see. Okay, I wanted to go above that. So then I'll just swipe 3 fingers down and paste, or hit the actions menu, the wrench tool, and push paste. And then there's my bow. Okay, so let's just fit that in about right there. All right, so I'm almost done. I just need to color that one teacup that's left, and then add in those little details and stuff. And then our art print will be done, which can also be used for other things we talked about, like your calendar, like a notebook cover. You could use this for really anything that needs just like a pretty image to be on the front. Like you could use for papers, journals, notebooks, and that sort of thing. So let me color in that last one. Okay, I have all of them colored. And one thing I noticed was that these ones have this shine where the light is shining on them, and this first one doesn't. So I want to add that in just to make everything match. So let's just add a new layer and add a quick shine. Okay, just so everything looks like cohesive. These ones are both like a cream colored, so I kind of want to swap so that it looks more balanced. I think I might swap like these two if it works. This one's a little tall, so maybe these ones, but then that'll be 2 creams on the same side. So I think I'll swap the purple one and just see how that looks. So yes, that is going to change like the final composition where there's like these little sparkles and stuff, but you can always adjust those. And I should probably have planned out my colors a little bit better. So if you plan ahead and just kind of like swatch your colors in to get a quick idea of how it's going to look, I would have noticed right away that there's 2 cream colored ones next to each other. I could also just recolor this one if it doesn't work to swap them. I kind of like this because of the steam, but then I have 2 with steam right next to each other. So I think I might just try to swap them and see how that looks. And now we can add in the rest of our details and the steam and the sparkles and everything. Sometimes for the steam, I don't want it to be like fully colored in. So I like to use the select tool on freehand, and then I'll just trace over it and then use a brush, like the noise brush that comes with Procreate is a nice one, and just kind of like fill in a little bit. Some nice ones to use for that are this Bonobo chalk. It's in the sketching section of the brush library. It comes free with the app. And there's also some charcoals that could work nice, like this burnt tree charcoal. There's also a noise brush that's in the materials folder that could work really well, and I think I'll use that one. So I lost my selection, so if that happens to you, just hold down on the select tool up here again, and it will select the last thing you selected. So in a new layer, I'm going to swipe over with the brush and fill in my steam. And I kind of like it textured like that, but maybe not quite like this spotty texture. So I might just go back with that soft chalk brush that I talked about earlier from my own pack and see how that looks. Okay, so I like that way better. And I'm going to do that for the teacups that need steam. So it was that one plus the ladybug, I think. Yeah, so I'll go down here and do the select tool and then just trace over my little steam here and scribble over it with my soft chalk brush. And then I have this nice little like bit of transparent steam coming out of the mug. I want it to go below the mug layers so that it's not over top of the outside of the mug, but it looks like it's coming from within. And I think that looks pretty good. And then just add in the rest of these details here, like little sparkles and stars and stuff. Sometimes I do these in different colors, but I think for this one, I just want to keep those simple, and I'll do them all in white. And I think the dry ink brush would work well for these. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I just added in like a couple little dots and things like that just to make it feel a little bit more balanced. Okay, and now you're allowed to post it onto your social medias because you have a plan for how you're going to repurpose this into many more things besides just like an Instagram post. So now you have permission to post it and tag me. I hope this was fun. Thanks for watching.